Hey,
Hi,
it's Tash and Carly,
and you're listening to Motherhood,
not as we planned.
So get comfy, grab a cup of tea,
Or a glass of wine, and let's start talking about all the things too many of us avoid discussing. Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode. So today we have a really exciting and special guest.
Very excited.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to this, haven't we? And it's taken us some time to find a schedule where it's worked for us. We are so happy to introduce Jessica Hayes. Welcome, Jess.
Hi guys. Oh my god, it's so nice to finally be chatting to you guys. Obviously following you for ages. It's so nice.
We literally have so many things we want to talk to you about today, and obviously, for those of you who don't know Jess and kind of her background, I'm sorry to bring it up, Jess. Do you want to introduce everyone a bit about your Love Island era?
I mean, I did do Love Island. I won it back in 2015. No, I mean, don't get me wrong. It was an amazing time, and it changed my life. It was incredible. But yeah, I feel like such a different woman now. I think, especially becoming a mom, it's changed me so much. So, but yeah, it was a good time. It was great.
And for those that obviously maybe don't follow you and don't know your situation now, if you can maybe just give us a little insight as to, as you just mentioned, you're now a mum. So
yeah, so I had my son in 2019. He's 4. And he's my world. As mums, we love our kids, don't we? But yeah, he changed me so much. And I did break up with his dad when he was 2. I was on my own for a little while. Obviously, it was a very hard time. And then I met somebody else. And yeah, that's kind of ended, going through a bit of a rocky patch. And I'm on my own at the moment with my son. And again, I'm just kind of doing that part all over again. So yeah, life's been a journey.
yeah. And
yeah.
Obviously, so you were together with his dad for the first 2 years, and then becoming a single mom. Did you take on kind of most of the responsibility? How was that kind of initial stage of being a single mom for you?
I think it's really hard at the beginning, isn't it? Navigating all the co-parenting thing. When are you going to have him? The set days. And because I think with dads, they're very they've got their work and that's their main focus, I find. And obviously you are left with most of the responsibilities. And it was really hard at first, super hard. It's odd, isn't it? But I feel as time's gone on, and I mean, I'm talking 2 years, we've finally reached a place where, he has his set weekends, his set days, and we can talk to each other on a level. We both moved on, we both had new relationships, and yeah, but it takes a while.
Yeah, would you say it's taken a while for you to get to the point where you can co-parent more effectively without bringing in the emotions? Because I find I'm 9 months in now, and I still feel we're not there at being able to leave everything. I feel we're still very much aware of what will get a response from the other person, and it's not fun.
I had that. I remember phone calls, screaming at each other down the phone saying, well, you owe me this still and you owe me that. And oh, well, I want him to go here to school. And, if you don't do that. And it was very hostile for a very long time. And I think sometimes I feel that shows that not that the other person hasn't moved on, but I did find that I moved on. I guess I moved on first. When I moved on, I kind of just completely had blocked him out of my head, and I just tried to move forward, and I was happy. But I think until he then found somebody else, it took him to kind of feel happy and settled for him to then stop nabbing at me. Because it's almost there's still that sort of jealousy there, and there's still that. Yeah. I mean, I absolutely have no feelings whatsoever now. He can have as many girlfriends as he wants. It doesn't faze me. I've got to that point.
Would you say that it wasn't until he found someone else where you felt there was that more kind of peace between you both in that co-parenting relationship?
Yeah, I think so. I do think it takes you both to kind of fully move on, because it's I know that when obviously it was I wanted to end the relationship. Even if it's them that's done wrong, it's like they will then get, I feel like men, like later on, they're like, they feel bad and they still love you and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, well, it's too late now.
Do you think it's an ego thing?
Possibly.
Do you think like, you know, you moved on first, you're happy and it's a bit like, oh, hold on, although I did wrong, what's going on here? Why is she okay and I'm not?
Yeah.
The reality hits. I do feel like, God, did I overreact? Like, but now I look back, it was, I wasn't happy in that relationship. Like, I always feel, this sounds really bad, I've never really said this, but the minute I got pregnant, I don't know, I felt so detached from the relationship and it just didn't work. But yeah.
How long into the relationship did you fall pregnant?
So I've known him for like a really long time. So before I did like the TV show, and it was one of those things, you know, when you know someone and you rekindle. And we did a bit of traveling. We went to Cape Verde and it was really quite quick. Like, I think we were in Cape Verde in like April, May, came back, got engaged, which was like random, a bit of a whirlwind, like, you know how it is. It's good at that. And then I was at my engagement party, like getting smashed, and I didn't realize I was probably like a week or a few days pregnant. So it was pretty quick.
And then you just sort of felt that, I guess it's one of those things, and I think we've spoken about it a lot, when you obviously have a baby with your partner, and even if maybe, you know, in the back of your mind things aren't great or they're not the way you'd like them to be, it is very scary suddenly thinking, oh, do you know what, this isn't as perfect as I'd like it to be, so I'm gonna leave. Like, I don't think many people would have that strength to...
You just sometimes accept it for what it is, don't you? You're like, these are my cards that I've been dealt, and you know, very lucky to have a baby, a healthy child, and maybe this is something that's got to give. It is really hard to walk away.
Although I did, you know, being pregnant, I did enjoy being pregnant with Presley. Like, it was a nice experience. And even those 2 years after, like, best 2 years of my life, I didn't expect to like not be with him. That wasn't like my plan. And, you know, I thought it would work, but, you know, sometimes it just don't. Yeah.
At what point would you say things happened where you realised like that you wanted to part ways?
I think, I don't know if it was like the whole having a baby thing, like there was no intimacy there.
Yeah.
Like,
really?
That kind of like when, and you know, I breastfed for like a year and a half, and I feel like that kind of thing just...
You feel like sexy, don't you? You don't feel as desirable. And I think sometimes what you really need is your partner to give you all of those, like those affirmations that you're still beautiful, that, you know, you're still attractive. I know for sure that was something I massively lacked in like my marriage. After I had a baby, when you're a woman and your body changes that much anyway, like you do feel different in your body, and it does take a while to adjust to everything. Even more so in your breastfeeding, because you are like sharing your body with your baby. And also, like, I don't know if you found this, but like things like before having kids, like boobs were like a really sexual thing, and it was like, you know, and then suddenly you've got this baby latching onto your nipple, and it's, I don't know, I just felt like I became so much less sexy.
Do you know what it was for me? I felt more like I just wanted to give myself to
your baby,
my kids. So you sort of like don't prioritize that like intimacy. And I think that I would definitely take responsibility as much as maybe my ex did, that becoming a mum, like just no one prepares you for that. You don't know how much it's going to change you as a person and you as a partner. And then I think it's very easy to kind of like put your kids so much higher on the priority list than your partner, and then maybe resentment can build up as well from that.
Yeah, 100%. And I actually don't always think that's a good thing. I think if I do it again or did it again, like I would try and prioritize them a bit more and still have that intimacy, because I can, you know, I think men do spin it on you like as an excuse as to why they cheated as well. Like, I think for me personally, it was like, wow, I was, you know, on the sofa and, you know, while I was, you know, it's no excuse, but it's like you're up breastfeeding in the middle of the night in the early days. And because you aren't giving them that attention, they then go and look elsewhere. And I think it actually scares me and worries me that a lot of that does happen in postpartum and when women are pregnant.
Yeah.
And I just blows my mind. It really does.
I mean, the amount of people that reach out to us.
Do you know what? I don't know if I've been living under a rock for like all these years, but I was very much like, I don't know if I'm just really naive, but and I obviously we've spoken about it before, like you see like loads of really happy relationships on Instagram and stuff, and the messages we get daily about like, I got one this morning, my partner of 3.5 years has been cheating on me the entire time, and it's just like, I want to have faith there's good people out there, but you just hear so many stories, and like the ones we get, like when people are like pregnant or literally giving
birth, and they've like, wasn't there an email that we read that she had, like, her partner had like left as she gave birth to go and be with us.
Yeah, there's a level of respect. Yes, right, your sexual needs might not be met, but if you love someone, you have to have that communication and you have to stick with each other through the hard times. It's always going to be like that. And this really riles me up at the moment, because I just feel like I'm seeing it everywhere. I feel like so many people, and look, I don't want to generalize. I'm not just saying it's men who cheat. I'm absolutely not, because I know people who have had it done the other way around. But I would say there's certainly a higher percentage of men who are cheating on women, because I do think a lot of it has got to do with this, like priorities shifting in when you have kids. It's so common, and
but I think again, it's an ego thing. I think you had this like very stereotypical, when you're just partners, you're each other's priority. A baby comes along and then the mum's priority shifts to the child, where the husband's priority or partner's priority still sort of remains on the woman. And as they're not getting what they used to get, instead of communicating it, because I don't think that's maybe a lot of men's forte, they then just instead start getting attention elsewhere, and it gives them that ego boost and, oh, actually, this is what I'm missing.
And hindsight is a wonderful thing. Like, I agree, like what you said, Jess, that I would put in more of a, I don't know, like a conscious priority to not making them feel that way, because at the end of the day, like your kid, you're bounded to for life. Like you have that bond with them, that love with them, that's like, what's the word, like unconditional. It's unconditional. Whereas with the person you're choosing to be with, you're choosing to be with that person. I feel like that's a completely different kind of love. Like the fact you're making that conscious choice to be with someone, you need to pour more into that, because it's not unconditional, because it's a choice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So something I wanted to ask, and like, obviously, if you don't want to talk about it, it's completely understandable, but you suffered a loss, didn't you?
Yeah. That was, do you know what? I'm actually okay talking about it. I feel like I've healed a lot from that now. So, you know, it's okay. Yeah, I did.
When did that happen in relation to when you had Presley? You had Presley in 2019.
Yeah, and it was 2020. So actually the gap with that was quite close. I forgot I could forget how close it was. I think I was actually still breastfeeding when I conceived Presley. And yeah, I don't know. It was, I mean, obviously I was happy. I wouldn't say I was happy in the relationship then, but I was, you know, I was happy that Presley would have a sibling, and, you know, all of that. Like it seemed fine. It's a bit like nervous and stuff because so close in age. And yeah, it was weird. It was like, I don't know if I knew something was like wrong at the start. I sort of, it was weird. It was almost like I had like a gut feeling. But yeah, I went into premature labour like halfway through my pregnancy, just out of nowhere.
Remember, it was around the 20-week mark, wasn't it?
Yeah. And about halfway through. 30th November 2020, I had him. And yeah, there was nothing they could do. Like, obviously the waters and stuff surrounding him had gone, and I was losing a lot of blood and stuff. So yeah, that sucked. It sucked more than I thought it would. Not more than I thought it would, because that sounds really weird. I would just remember being in this like weird hole for like 3-4 months. And it was over Christmas as well. So that was really tough, like crazy tough.
And was that lockdown or no? Was there a lockdown that Christmas?
Yeah, well, we were just coming out of it, or it was a little bit. No, it was, wasn't it?
There was a second lockdown, I believe, that Christmas.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that had any strain on your relationship?
Oh, 100%. Like, I remember coming out from the hospital, just like being like, what the hell just happened? And, you know, there was a lot of like, I remember there was blame at one point and things like that. And it was, yeah, I think it almost got a bit toxic, I guess.
I guess it's a time when you need each other most, and sometimes it's things like that actually push you further apart from each other.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's make or break in that kind of situation.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking you and don't feel like you have to answer this, when you go into like such an early labour, what actually is the process? Is it treated like like as if they're full term, but like, do they make you aware that this obviously is going to go the way of a miscarriage? Like, it might really called a miscarriage, is it?
If you class it as one, because if it's not, is it 24 weeks? They can't do anything outside to try and save the baby, sort of thing. Although they can be born.
My youngest sister was born at 24 weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, and what? Yeah, that's crazy.
And she's a healthy 31-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Crazy.
That's it.
It was in hospital for obviously ages, and you know, my mum had to have her womb removed. It was an awful traumatic thing, but yeah, 24 weeks, it blows my mind.
I just remember going in and being like, I was bleeding, and I think you can just get bleeding, can't you, in pregnancy?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, it'll be fine, it'll be absolutely fine. And then like just started getting so heavy, and I was like, why is this happening? Like, so weird. And then I remember staying overnight, and I was feeling positive and thinking, oh, you know, everything will be fine. And I remember, because my waters went with Presley, and I remember just like leaning off the side of the bed thinking, I really need to go for a wee, like desperate. And like, they just like went, my waters. So like they rushed in and was like, they took me down to a delivery. They do take, yeah. That I think that's the weirdest part, is that you go
on like a normal labour ward.
You go in the same bit. So essentially, I remember hearing women giving birth and stuff.
So awful.
It was weird. But they then do, once you sort of like, I went up to like a bereavement, it's like on the top floor, it's called like a bereavement suite, which is really sad. Like, that's obviously where people go if they know that their baby's going to not make it, or it's going to be, you know, stillborn and stuff. And I just had to wait. And it was like the worst and the longest wait of my life. And I just remember being in that top room. It was like almost like more like a bedroom. And I went down. No, but the hardest part was that, so because of the COVID thing, I could only have one person with me. So I had him, you know, my ex to start with, and then I just wanted my mum. Yeah. So she was the one that was with me. Yeah, they took me down to actual delivery room and gave me like loads of like morphine and all of that. And I just had to wait. I literally had to wait. And it sounds awful, but I remember getting up just completely drugged up, like awful. And I remember going to the toilet, and that generally happens quite a lot, I think, when they're very small. And the midwife was like, don't move. Like, I can, you know, he's coming out. It's so weird. Sorry if that was too much detail.
Oh, no.
And And then that was it. He was out. They cut the thing, and it's weird because the placenta and the cord and everything, it's all the same size, and then it's over, and you're just like, okay, this is very weird. It's all very silent. It's just odd. And then I remember going up to the top, and I didn't know if it was a boy or a girl at the time, and they brought him in, and I spent a bit of time with him. I mean, he was so tiny, like, you know, like so small, and yeah, like I don't even know if it was that long. It was just all so weird. And then they give you a box, and then you start talking about planning like a funeral, and then you go home. It's like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Like, I've never really, I mean, obviously what is it and think about it if it hasn't actually happened to you. But no, it's really sad to then think that you're with someone.
I suppose you spent like the previous 20 odd weeks, like imagining your life and your child with a sibling, for it to then be taken away. Did see, I know you said like for a few months after that you struggled. Did you ever go and seek like therapy and help?
I did, but I went down if I'm being totally honest, I went down a bit of a slippery slope of drinking alcohol, and sort of just like, it was Christmas time, and I just was like trying to numb everything.
Yeah,
a little bit scary. It wasn't great. And then I just had to crack on. And then it's not till now that I'm getting like therapy and things like that now for all the stuff that I don't think I dealt with.
Yeah.
But I think it still hits me, of course. Like, I think for me the hardest part is like seeing Presley and thinking, oh, how similar would they have been? Obviously, you know, like you're having two boys and things, and like, you know, would they have been little best mates? And if I see two like boys together, I get emotional when I speak about it like that. I still like, and it's like there is like a missing part. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like
I think it's amazing that you're now seeing someone and actually going back and dealing with things that you obviously feel like you didn't, because I think when people sometimes leave it that long, they almost feel like, oh, do you know what? Like, I'm fine. It is what it is. But I think it takes quite a lot of like courage to.
Sometimes it's hard to seek the help in the moment, because I think sometimes, I think it depends on different people. I think sometimes you have to feel the feels. Like for me, I haven't had any therapy from what I went through this year, but it's only now. Actually, this morning I was having a look online, and I thought, this is something I really want to do for myself. And it's not just stuff from this year. I think things that have happened in my life this year have triggered things from the past. And I feel like only now am I ready to kind of tackle them and try and heal from things that I don't know, have maybe been pushing.
Yeah, it's never too late.
Never too.
So I feel like it's really good that you're now doing something about that, because sometimes I don't think you realise, like I think what we mentioned in last week's episode, like sometimes like out of nowhere you'll suddenly like realise, actually, I actually think that's a bit of a trigger for me. That must have come from this, which I never even really realised was an issue. Yeah. So actually kind of working on that is only gonna...
As well, like I was set, like you can self-sabotage, can't you? If you've not like fully healed from something, it's like those habits and those behaviours, like you end up self-sabotaging your whole life and your whole relationships and your whole... Like obviously anxiety was something that was a billion times worse after that. And I was so scared that I was going to lose Presley, and like that was just drilled in my head. I was like, something's going to happen, because it's almost like that innocence is gone. Like when you witness something so raw and think, oh my God, you can actually lose a child and a baby. You're like, how? Like, I thought the world wasn't like that. And it's almost like your bubble gets popped.
What do you think was your main struggle with becoming a single mum? Like you said that you ended the relationship. We have spoken quite a bit about the fact that I felt I healed from the person I was with a lot quicker than I thought I would, but I still do, even to this day, a year and a half down the line, still struggle with that kind of like concept of doing a lot of things as a single mum rather than that kind of family unit?
Yeah, the family unit. Yeah.
I actually think that's what I grieved more afterwards. Like, I remember, because I don't think I was in love anymore and all of that. I don't think, but I remember being so heartbroken, and like, I remember pacing up and down thinking, I can't do this. like, and then I, miraculously met a partner, and I think you're just in this like bubble again. But that's the thing, it's almost like you heal, like when you jump from that, it's actually not a good thing. But yeah, I find that really hard. Like, the weekend just gone, Prezi, but they go through their phases, don't they, where they can be really naughty for about 4 or 5 days, and you're like, what are you doing, double child? Like, seriously, like, what is wrong with you? And I did all sorts of them. Like, we went to the Christmas lights, and you like to plan all these nice little things with them, and we did breakfast with Santa, and I took him to the Christmas markets and the fairgrounds, and oh my God, he just had the amp the whole time. He was like, just horrible to me. And I remember sitting down on the Sunday and just feeling so deflated and crying my eyes out and thinking, this is fucking lonely, and I'm trying my best, and I feel like I'm not good enough. And I thought, and that's when it hit me, and I was like, do you know what? This is fucking hard. It is really hard. There are moments like that, and you probably have those a lot too. It's like, shit, this is rough.
It's not that you're missing that person that you had the child with. It's just kind of like
the support. It's like
having no other adult to kind of like bounce off of, and then like vent to in the evening once you put your kid to bed. You put your kid to bed, and then it's like, oh my God, that was horrific. Like, we're together.
Stuff like what you said, like, it sounded like you had a pretty full-on weekend. Like, I did that the other week. And in my head, I was like, it's going to be like the most amazing, magical weekend. We've got all these activities planned. It's going to be wonderful. And then you're like, I mean, that's stressful even if you are with, why did I bother? That's stressful, like, if you are in a couple with their dad. But on my own, it's like triple, like a billion times harder. And when we drove back from London, I just burst out crying, and I was like, I'm just trying to be the best mommy to you, and you're doing this, and it's so overwhelming. And I just think, one thing I just keep reminding myself is like, kids are going to be kids.
I'm like,
I used to think it all the time. We're like, they think I'm not good enough, but that's just like, it's not a personal thing. It's not that we're not good enough. And like, I think the fact they can be like that with you says like you are their safe space. They feel safe enough to be able to be like this angry version of themselves. I always feel, I don't know, I sometimes try and take a step back when Theo's like acting out, and I'm like, because you feel safe doing this around you. You feel safe. It's hard. Like, it's really hard.
Do you know what? I did like the opposite. Like, the weekend just gone, I had the kids, and I woke up on the Sunday. I was meant to be taking them into London for an event. And then I just thought, I just don't have the energy. And we ended up staying in our pajamas all day. We watched a film together. We did some painting. And at first, I had this like immense amount of guilt, because especially around this time of year, you're seeing everyone on Instagram do these really fun Christmassy things with their family. And then I'm like, oh, my kids are stuck at home. But do you know what? It was the most like wholesome, like bonded day. Like it was, I feel like we actually all really needed it. And it's just made me realise sometimes we put this massive pressure on ourselves to make sure we fill the kids' weekends with like really exciting things where we have to always go somewhere, have to be doing something. But sometimes it's the really simple things that you do with them that they do still appreciate.
100%. Sometimes they're some of the best times. And actually, to put a spin on that, I actually do find that there's actually quite a nice side to doing it on your own sometimes. I sometimes I feel like, amongst all the hardness, I feel like sometimes he gets the best of me, gets my full, like, and I love that one-on-one time with him.
What's your split like with your childcare?
So his dad picks him up from school on a Wednesday, and has him and takes him to school the next day. So I get an evening off on a Wednesday, which is handy. and then every other weekend. So
yeah. I feel the same. I feel like where I'm getting that weekend to do me and do things I want to do, and to, I don't know, like rediscover being Carly, because I completely lost myself in motherhood. I completely lost myself in my marriage. I kind of lost sight of doing everything I enjoyed doing, and it was just all about the kids. And I feel like now I've got this time, and I feel like I'm having fun again, and I'm laughing again. And I feel like when I'm with my kids now, they are getting such a better version of myself. And I've really felt like the shift in how I am with them. I feel like the difference in Theo's behaviour, not being in an atmosphere that I don't even think I was really aware was so negative until I've taken a few steps back and been like, like I just find, I don't know, I think they probably get a better version of their dad as well, and I think that can only benefit the kids. And I think in our heads we just have this pressure of it being like a 2-parent home, and the fact is there's so many people in this day and age who aren't like that, because I think people are getting braver to walk away from relationships. I know, like, particularly in my parents' generation, there's people who are now coming out as like gay, who were married for years and years, but it wasn't acceptable at that time to be homosexual. And now they're stepping away from their marriages. And I feel like, I don't know, I think people are braver, and I think things are more acceptable. And actually, I don't think necessarily being in a 2-parent home is the most normal thing anymore. I think it's, I don't know, I'm very much aware of, I think until you are a single parent, you don't realise how many single parents there are.
Yeah.
Crazy. I don't really know many.
But no, but I guess like we're now being approached by so many. It's like, oh, okay, like there is this massive, like, you know, that's the word I was looking for.
Stigma.
Yeah.
Like I went to the Santa thing at the weekend, and it was all families, and I was just him, and I just think I think that hopefully that stigma is dropping a little bit, because like, listen, we didn't choose this life. Okay?
Yeah. Something that I wanted to bring up, because a lot of people talk about this with us, and we both haven't experienced this yet, but you've obviously mentioned that Presley's dad has another relationship. So how did that make you feel initially when there was going to be like another, I don't want to say mother figure, because no one's ever going to be a mum to him other than you, but another woman involved with your child where you're not present?
We've not been through this yet.
Yeah, see, it's a funny one, because obviously I'm well aware that I got into a new relationship in the October. I broke up with his dad in April, May. So I did introduce Presley quite quickly, but I think there was a lot of like, I almost like knew when I met him, I was like, this is not going to be like a short-term thing. And I don't really know. I guess I was a bit angry as well. I was like, well, I don't owe you anything. Like, you've done this, you've done this, you've done this. Like, I guess I didn't respect him. So I was like, well, it's my life and it's hard, and I feel like this person's right. So that was like my side of things. And I can imagine it's hard for the dad. But I think he got into a new relationship. I was okay, because I guess, like, because I'd moved on, I was like, well, these things just happen. Like, it's one of those things. And then obviously I did want to know like more about who it was and what they do. And luckily this person I knew that she was good with children and stuff. And I think she did adore him. But it's nice that he was being loved and looked after. It's another heartbreak again. Like, I am trying to sort of work through things with my ex-partner as such at the moment. But it's like, that you know, he's asking, where is he though? Like, he misses him as well. And it's like another person that they're missing and they've bonded with. And you can't keep doing that to them, man. It's like, and then you feel bad.
It's hard, because there's this fine line between like when you meet someone new, when you're no longer with your child's dad, you meet someone you think that you're going to be with them long term. Eventually, when you get to that point where you decide to introduce your kids,
you like to know they're going to get on.
The thing is, I guess what I'm saying is, you know, when I got married and had children with my ex-husband, I had children with him and got married with him because I thought I'd be with him for the rest of my life. You're eventually going to find someone else that you think you're going to hopefully be with for the rest of your life. So there's going to come a point where your kids will be introduced. You can't sit and worry forever, but what if this one doesn't work? So I'm never going to introduce my kids. But then flip side, you don't want to do it too soon because then you're potentially like getting your children involved in something that they don't need to. So it's kind of finding that balance of like, you can never be absolutely certain that your next relationship is going to last, but quite equally, eventually, if you want it to work, your children are going to need to be involved because they're your life.
I think you need to get to the point as well where, like, for me, it will get to a point where, like, I want to know my kids get on with him.
Yeah.
Vice versa. I mean,
yeah.
But I think it's also scary as well, like, it being, I don't know, it's not something I ever thought I'd be doing. I presumed I would be married and happily ever after and all that.
So you guys have got new partners, and what about your exes? Do they not?
So I've got a new partner. He has no children. So there's nothing in regards to me. I haven't met anyone else's children. He's met my kids.
Yeah.
My soon-to-be ex-husband, as far as I'm aware, doesn't have a partner, that hasn't met anyone else. Not serious enough anyway for me to be aware of it.
Them to be introduced to the kids.
Yeah.
My boyfriend's got kids, and my ex-husband, I believe, is with someone, but how serious it is, I am unsure.
I hate that you can't control, not that what goes on. So it's almost like
you're not there.
Yeah. You set a certain standard and you try and raise them to be a gentleman and, you know, to be in touch with their feelings, especially, you know, I'm trying to be like that with Presley a lot. And, you know, he's turned out to be like absolutely wonderful, you know, great. But then I can't control what his dad's doing. The fact that he's bringing people into his life very, very quick. He's going to then think that's normal. Where's he going? You know, is he staying at somebody else's house? Like, it's fucking, and that kicks in again. I'm like, fuck, I struggle with that.
Yeah, it's something that, as I said, like, we haven't yet experienced it, and I don't know how I would feel if my ex was introducing my kids to, you know, people that maybe were right at the beginning of a relationship, or, you know, you really want, as you said, you want to set these standards and you hope that they return it. But unfortunately, which I think we're still learning, is you cannot control how other people behave.
The thing is, it's going to happen, isn't it? There's going to come a time where there'll be and do you know what? I actually am verging to a point where I'm thinking, actually, if he's genuinely happy, it's only going to benefit my kids. And that is my number one priority. That's the thing I struggle with, is I'm very specific with how I do things and how I want my kids to be brought up and the values. And I think even particularly as boys, like similar to what you were saying, Jess, like I really want my boys to know, like, you should never be afraid of your emotions and to be able to speak about them, because I think that is something a lot of men in our generation aren't able to do well. And I want them to know there's no stigma around that, and you can't tell someone how to parent, and I think that is the hardest thing. So I feel like I'm very much like, I don't know, I kind of like educate myself in terms of parenting. I follow a lot of parenting accounts with parenting tips and this and that, because I want them to learn. I want them to, but you don't know what's going on at,
you know, they do say, as long as your child has one, and they only need one, like solid, caring and supportive parent, they're fine.
I'm not saying my kids aren't loved and cared for, like, with their dad. They absolutely, like, he adores them and they are happy there. But I just think, I find you've got a relatively similar split in terms of it being every other weekend, but I find like they can go and like just have a really fun weekend where it's not like the parenting I feel like I do. And so like I feel like often I have to put a lot more boundaries in place, or like I feel like I deal with a lot more crappy behaviour and day-to-day issues and the washing and everything else on top of it. Whereas I feel like it's not the same when you've only got them for a weekend and you're going to these fun places. Like you're not having to put loads of things in place.
But you know what? Flip side of that is maybe that's best.
Oh, I'm not arguing.
No, what I mean is like, you know, yeah, same. But, you know, sometimes I do sit there and I think to myself, like, he doesn't have to do that, like, mundane. Like, he probably has, like, 2 outfits of theirs to do the washing. And, you know, I'm still, even when I don't have the kids, I'm still being a mom. I'm still worrying about that doctor's appointment I need to book. Oh, God, he needs to have his flu vaccination. You know, all those things that we still need to do. And I think to myself, it is annoying. They do pretty much just get to be a part-time dad in the nicest possible way. But then I think actually, then that means I get to really choose how they're brought up, how I parent, how they're taught right from wrong, and the morals that I want to put on them.
Peaceful. Yeah. Grown as well at the same time. Like it can be quite a peaceful place and you've got nobody telling you what to do or how to do things. And I sometimes find a man, like, don't get me wrong, like it's like having another child.
And you know what? And that is where I think you know that you're not with a man. You're with a boy.
This is it. If you feel like you...
Because I saw this thing on TikTok and it was saying, like, you need to have a man that's so comfortable in his own masculine energy to allow you to be in your feminine, because we're already, you know, mothering our children and being that like strong supportive unit for like the family home and your children, that you, if you have to then be that way with a man,
you end up resenting.
It's not attractive. Like you want to be looked after and be feminine and sweet and cute and them to look after you. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm all for being an independent woman, but a woman should still be able to be in her feminine energy with the right man.
I found it quite empowering. Like there's been loads of things that, like, I'm not going to lie, like, I've never done a bin in my life until I became a single mum. That I never in a million years would I have, like, I've had to, like, step up and do stuff. Like, I've had to step up and get the giant spiders. And, you know, I've had to...
I did that anyway. I did the spiders anyway.
How embarrassing.
The spiders. Oh my God, I'm doing it.
Sometimes...
I'm still struggling with the light bulb.
Light bulbs, yeah, you can do a light bulb, but
wait from dad.
Things like that I remember, like the first time I did something that I'd always previously
air in the tyre.
To get air in the tyre. I was like, I don't need a man.
Yeah.
He is empowering, because I think, I don't know, even things like last night, right? I was sat there, I had the holiday on and I started wrapping up my Christmas presents. And I thought, oh, maybe you should feel sad right now. You're doing this alone. And I was like, wait. You did this alone every single year.
Yeah.
It actually isn't any different. You sat there and watched Christmas films and wrap presents on your own. This isn't different. And I think now I'm out of my marriage, I realise I was lonely in my marriage. I didn't have that connection. I didn't have that best friend and that partner doing things with me and making memories. So I was sat there last night ready to get all like emotional and sad, because I was like, I could have wrapped my presents, watch the holiday, and I was like, this is bloody brilliant. Like, I've got no one moaning at me. I'm literally did this on my own for the last however many years. Like, I know I wasn't sad. I was like, you are freaking smashing it, girl. Like, you're 9 months into doing this on your own. It's your first Christmas. You're wrapping presents. You're not crying. Like, I don't know. I think sometimes we need to celebrate how far we've come. I think a lot of people consider things like relationship breakdowns or marriage endings as like a failure. And I don't think it is. I think it's what you make of it. And if you can walk away and you've learned a lesson from it, or you've learned what you want to take into future relationships with it, you've absolutely not failed. You've only grown. And I feel like I'm sat here 9 months on feeling the most confident in myself, like knowing like I can give my kids the best possible life, and no man is going to, whether he's in or out my life, is going to stop me doing that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Really?
That's amazing. I think this, like, that is amazing. Like, it's absolutely amazing.
And absolutely smashing it, Jess. Like, literally, like, look at everything you've achieved on your own. Like, you do so well with all your social media stuff. I think it's I've followed you for absolute years, and I think it's been so inspirational watching, because I remember watching you become a single mum, because Theo and Presley are really similar ages. And I remember watching in awe of you becoming a single mum, and I think, like I've probably been for some people, I've found that really helpful navigating like my own set of circumstances. I think when you are on a public platform and you're sharing how you're kind of like adapting and you're smashing life and you're still getting on with things, I think that gives other people hope that they can too.
Yeah. And I feel I'm always like a strong believer everything happens for a reason. I know that's so cliche, but I do think that, like, whether it's to prove to yourself so how strong you are and that you deserve better, and like the universe does that to you to put you on a better path anyway. So yeah, I do feel like I am rubbish on social media now. Like, I don't really share like the mother stuff and that, but again, since I'm on my own, I'm sharing more of that again. It's like I'm, you know, I kind of, I've lost who I was along the way at times.
Yeah, I think it's easily done.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually sometimes really therapeutic when you share things on social media like that, because then you do get that response from people realizing, actually, I'm not the only one that's going through this. I'm being relatable to other people, helping other people through it. And those people, believe it or not, the messages I get of people saying like, thank you so much for sharing this, like it's really helped me. That message actually helps me, because I'm like, okay, like I'm not the only one doing it.
Yeah.
So obviously, like, being present on social media, like what you do and kind of like what you share, do you feel like, I mean, I know the answer to this anyway, but do you feel like, I don't know, you get negativity or trolls, and like, how have you felt like that's impacted you? Because obviously it's something we've both experienced, but kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I think, like, I feel like I'm quite lucky. I don't get too much of it, but it's very like, I was what people call the mum police, isn't it?
Always there, aren't there? Or the Karens.
Oh, you shouldn't be having him in his car seat like that, and pull the strap up, you know, you should be the other way around. And you think, oh, fucking hell. But yeah, like it can be a lot, can't it? And you question yourself and you think, like, it's just not really needed.
How do you deal with like any negativity?
I think I'm pretty good at just like brushing it off, to be honest. I'm trying to think of things when, yeah, I'm pretty good at brushing it off. It's when it's like the proper trolls that are really, really vile. Like, I've had a few like horrendous things said to me, and it's very few and far in between. But when they do, it's like when they comment about your children, like the way they look, or, you know, something like that. I had that a few weeks ago actually, and I feel like it was someone that knows me, or like,
they say that, don't they? They say that like the people who do things like that are normally someone who knows.
They took it too far, and they were like, your son's ugly, and like put a sick face, and I was like, no, absolutely not. And I've been pregnant, and people have said your child's gonna die, and obviously that was actually before. Like things like that, like really dark stuff.
It's just that's people obviously just so unwell.
Not right.
So not normal.
It used to really bother me. Yeah. I remember like in the early days of becoming a mum, I used to share like quite a lot. I can't remember what it was. And I really struggled with it because I didn't really know what I was doing when I first became a mum. And it's like having all those judgment, and then people would say something, well, that was it. Mine was when, with the early days, Theo was still in the NICU, and someone said something like, he's an unhealthy weight because all I cared about was Instagram likes. And that's why I worked out during my pregnancy and all this like crap. And at the time, I think when you're flooded with the hormones, or like, I'd never really been subjected to anything like that, I really struggled mentally. And I think it's taken me like a good few years. I'm incredibly thick-skinned now. Like, I genuinely could not give a damn what someone who I don't know or like is irrelevant in my life. I genuinely could not care what they have to say about me, because in all honesty, I don't like everyone, but I'm not going to sit there writing about them. I just think the thoughts in my head and I move on with it. You know,
I think you do have to be very thick-skinned to put your life on a social platform. I think, and I don't know if you can relate, Jess, but I think when you do share things like relationships and breakdowns of relationships, and then a new person, and people are going to judge. People are going to give their opinion. I remember I had quite a few people being like, oh, well, that was quick. Well, you moved on quickly. I'm sure you're the one that ended up doing the wrong. Maybe you cheated on him. And it was just a bit like, I've literally shown you probably like 5 minutes of the day.
Which was like for the love.
Yeah. And you're also showing them to help them. Like that's, especially with you two as well. Like you're putting your life across and you're talking about the struggles of motherhood to help them. And then it's when you're doing that and then people take the piss, it makes you think, well, fuck it, I'm not going to do it. I bet you guys have had a few moments like that because I know I have. Yeah. You're like, oh, I'm not.
Why do I bother?
Yeah. So it's like, you just can't.
I think you just have to accept, like, there's always going to be someone who's, look, part of me feels good. I'm helping someone get their little kick of the day. Like, if you need to write a bad comment,
I have to reply.
Some way. See, I don't reply.
I have to reply. I can't help it. Yeah. But I reply really like, so so like I got a message. It was actually yesterday. Yeah. And they replied to one of my reels, sort of, I spoke about like, you know, 2 happy homes is better than 1. And they replied being like, yeah, you're happy home because you're a narcissistic. And they literally just like reeled off loads of things. And I replied being like, I'm so sorry you're having a bad day, sending you lots of love. Because it just, I find it funny because I think those people like want a reaction. So I just like give them love. I'm like, I hope you're okay, babe.
Imagine the kind of person who sits there and is like, oh, this person is really triggering me with their like openness. I'm going to go and write this really abusive. I got a message the other day. I went on a date day and I literally shared I'd been out for the day and someone passive aggressive in my bloody question box wrote, lovely kiss kiss. Oh, lovely to see you happy, kiss, kiss. But where are the kids? I left them at home on their own to fend for themselves. Like, what do you think? Like, do you not question my parenting? Like, I've just left them at home. I stuck the TV on and ordered them a takeaway pizza. Like, seriously, they're with their dad. Like, it's, I didn't reply. I was going to write a passive aggressive comment, but it's just,
I can't help it. It gives me joy.
I do as well. I can't like for them on like.
It makes me sad. Like, because I do know people who do get really affected by it. Like I know people have come off social media completely because it impacted their mental health so much.
We want to say thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us and sharing things that, you've just been really open. I think it's going to be really helpful for people to hear. Yeah. Like, it's just nice to have someone that we can obviously relate to as well. Like, being a single mom, it has its cons, but actually also it does have its pros, and you're doing amazingly, and I think that really shows on your social media. So,
and you look beautiful, so you know,
show me up.
You guys are absolutely smashing it as well, and honestly, it inspires me to do more content and be more open about single motherhood, because again, you guys are helping so many people, especially with your podcast as well. Like, it's such a hard thing to navigate, and you're smashing it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on, Jess.
And make sure, if you're not already following Jess, go and give her a follow on Instagram.
Absolutely.
Fabulous.
And guys, like, subscribe, share the podcast, and we hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you again next week.
See you later.
Bye.